This video is going to show you how to create the stars. We already completed these exercises 9:10 through 9:13, and now we are going to actually study and look at the for loop. You have been introduced to the for loop before. Remember, there's a initialization phase, there's a loop condition which we call the loop guard, and there's the update which we call the increment. We are supposed to look at the add asteroids method in the space class in order to find an example of a for loop, and we are basically going to copy and use this code from the add asteroids. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it now using Control-C. I'm going to scroll up to or down wherever you placed yours, create stars method, and we are going to copy this for loop. Again, our for loop starts at 0 here. That's our initialization. It goes from I is less than count and then I plus plus. I'm going to compile this and we will probably get some errors. That's pretty typical. Starting to read these errors is what's important, and this says it cannot find a symbol variable count. Well, that should make sense to us because count was actually the variable used down here in the asteroids class, and that was based on a parameter sent into the asteroids class. But our parameter is not count. We have a parameter for the number of stars named number. So we have to change this to use the local variable number in order to create the number of stars. Currently, it will execute 300 times because we asked it to create stars 300 times. And just for the heck of it, even though this is creating asteroids, let's run this code, compile it, and see what happens. Sometimes I always try to do that, run frequently, so we can catch errors sooner rather than later. But this is kind of interesting because it places all of your asteroids in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And if you start to run the game, they do start to move around and disperse. But why would they place them all in that top left-hand corner of the screen? And if you take a look at the code, when they generate the random x and y values, they use the get width command for the screen, but they divide it by 2. And they do the same with the height. Well, we aren't going to want stars just in the top left corner, so we're going to want to use the full width and the full height. Again, I'm going to compile. I haven't added stars yet, but we're going to take a look at what that did and see if we have asteroids dispersed throughout. We do. It's kind of fun just to run it because it's kind of crazy to see what it does. And we can try to shoot some of those asteroids if you want. You can play around for a moment there while we get ready for the next step. Our next step is going to be to actually create the stars, and exercise 9:18 steps us through that. We are going to do the following. To create the stars, we're actually just going to paint little white dots on the background. So we have to retrieve the world's background. We're going to use a loop like we did in the asteroids. We already have that set up. In the body of the loop, we're going to generate random x and y coordinates, and we already have that because we copied and pasted the code over. We're going to set the color to white and then paint a filled oval onto the background image with a width and height of 2 pixels. So if we go back to our code, we have to retrieve the world's image was the first thing. And so we're going to copy that line of code from our constructor that we have up here, Control-C. And we're going to retrieve the background image and paste down here so that it's a local variable to this method. It then said that we need to change the background color to white, and we learned how to set a color to white up here. And I'm not sure if it's actually the entire background that we need to set to white. I actually am thinking that that is wrong because that would change the whole entire background to white. But let's experiment just a second and see. So I'm using this background variable, which is this local variable here. I'm going to compile, and I'm going to see what that did. And compile. and the background stayed black. So I was maybe anticipating the background turning to white, but it didn't. So I guess that's good. We will take a look and then go back, and now instead of adding an asteroid, that's where we're going to have to make some changes. And what we are going to do is in the Greenfoot image API, they wanted us to fill an oval. Our template for the fill oval method is fill oval, integer x, integer y, integer width, integer height. I just highlighted and copied that line of code, but we'll retype it in the class, so you don't have to, if you don't want to, copy and paste it. I'm going to talk through it here just a little bit. So you would type fill oval. Now, because this was a template, it included the data types, but you don't need to do that for this method call. So you're just going to use the x variable, which is a random x value. You're going to use the y value, which is a random y value for the height. And the directions told us to use a pixel width of 2 and a pixel height of 2. And I do know that I have to have a semicolon at the end. We're going to try to compile and see what happens. When we compile, it tells us it can't find this symbol, method fill oval. And the reason for that is the fill oval is working on a Greenfoot object. And so it's actually a method call. And so if we use the background object and fill an oval on the background object, compile. Now remember, we just changed all the asteroids. We know we're no longer doing asteroids. We compile it, and now I have these little white circles on the screen that represent our stars. You can play around with that just a little bit more, but that should pretty much create our stars for us. And one last thing that I will mention is when I first created this video, I put the create stars as the very first thing. And when I did that, we're going to comment out this one, it showed no visible change in our world. And that's because I created the stars, but then I immediately wiped them out by redrawing the background in black. So we want to have the create stars method after creating the background, and that's what's going to give us that simulation of stars. So if I recompile this, we should get the stars back on the screen. And there it is. Give that a try on your own, and the next video we'll take a look at moving the rocket ship.